Hey, thanks for tuning in to Unfair Sports. While you're here, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. Appreciate it. Check the social medias. I'll have all the links and all the information on that. Details to come. But Jimmy,
Yeah.
we got to talk about it.
Okay.
You know what we got to talk about, right?
Yes. And, one of the things that we pride ourselves on being are counselors for the sports world, for fans. We try to help you to be reasonable whenever things don't go well for your team. We offer you consolation as well as reality-based criticism. But today, I'm in a bit of pain here, so I'm probably going to need you all to help me
Yeah,
out through this.
we're going to help Jimmy today. Is basically what we have to do. We have to give him the therapy, even though honestly he really doesn't need it because this was a quite overachieving season. And speaking of which, yes, Kansas got throttled by Kentucky 80-62. So you did hit me with two teams that in Kansas that did lose with Kansas in the name.
Mm-hmm.
The first one we'll talk about is these 49ers losing to the Los Angeles Rams 20-17. On a final play that only Jimmy Garoppolo could do.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy G did everything we expected. Jimmy, I don't know if you saw I guess we could call it beef that was out there between Jeff Garcia and Mina Kimes. Mina Kimes with ESPN. She does NFL Live. She's fantastic. She understands the game. She can break it down. She knows coverages. She knows all that stuff. I listen to her to learn something nerdy on a regular basis because she nerds out. And Jeff Garcia got mad at her because she basically said that the same thing everybody else has said. Jimmy, you have in a way said this as well, that Jimmy G is basically the student in class that is in the group project, does absolutely nothing and gets an A. That's who Jimmy G is. He's also the one that will do something that will lead you to an F because he forgets to bring the one thing that's critical. He had one assignment. You had one job. And they do a fantastic job of ruining it. So the Niners lost. Jimmy G looked like himself. And like I said, it was a Jimmy Mystique way of throwing an interception while falling to prevent himself from getting sacked with like a minute and a few seconds left in the game. So, Jimmy, I'm going to ask you this question first because we do need to do the therapy session.
Okay.
I think it's only fair. We did this for me. We'll do this for you.
Okay.
How do you feel about your Niners season?
In a way, you sort of prefaced how I feel about it. You mentioned overachieving. And I think that this Niners team did overachieve. And whenever we see a team like this, whether it's through the regular season or through the playoffs, eventually that overachieving comes to an end. They overachieved in their last game of the season against these same Rams in order to get into the playoffs, coming back from, I think, 17 down, something like that. And against a team that has a decidedly better roster. So then your first round opponent is the Cowboys. We talked about that extensively. The Cowboys are a more talented team, by some metrics, a better team, and they found a way to overachieve and win that game. Exact same thing with the Green Bay Packers, the number one seed in the NFC. Obviously, we're a better team than them. And it came to an end in this game. So part of me is in pain because, like anyone else, I did want to see my team with an opportunity, and these opportunities in conference championship games don't always come around. Your team could get there one year and not get back for 30 years. You never know. So, yes, I was hoping that they would win, but I was very proud of what I saw out of the Rams, out of Matthew Stafford, and to some degree OBJ as they continue to rewrite their narrative into the Super Bowl. I was happy for that defense and Aaron Donald, who he was a huge part of the reason why they won, not just what he did on the field in that fourth quarter, but because of how he lit into his defensive line and how they played lights out in that fourth quarter. That's what a leader does. So I'm happy for him. I'm happy for McVay because, in a way, I hate seeing any team get beat over and over and over again, no matter what they do, by the same team. And I'm a fan of Sean McVay. So in that sense, I was happy for them. The Rams were better. They came through in the clutch when it mattered the most. They had I won't say heart. Both teams played with heart, but they had more discipline in certain areas in that fourth quarter. They didn't beat themselves like the 49ers did. And as I mentioned last week, my late father was a Rams fan. So for his sake, in a sense, it's good to see his team get back to a Super Bowl, in a sense, carbon copying your Tampa Bay Buccaneers to play the game in their home stadium, which obviously is a monumental advantage. So part of me is hurting, but part of me is proud of the Rams and how they played. And I definitely look forward to what we're going to see from them in the Super Bowl.
I do appreciate your optimism around that and just the eloquent way that you gave them props. See, I got a different perspective behind that.
Okay.
Yes, the 49ers gave that game away in multiple ways. Mm-hmm. Jimmy G tried to give the game away. Matt Stafford tried to give the game away. This was a bad game for both of them. I mean, Matt Stafford did, of course, 31-45, 337, 2 touchdowns, a pick at the goal line, by the way. Mm-hmm. And Jimmy G's 16 for 30, 232, 2 touchdowns and a pick. So looking at those numbers, those base numbers, it doesn't look that bad, right?
Right.
It's one of those situations. I had a conversation with a buddy of mine, and he's been listening to the pod. He appreciates us. And one of the things we kind of he told me is that he's starting to look at the game in a more pensive way. He's really thinking about and understanding the true nuances of the game because of, the way we converse. Now, not to say that we're just so excellent at all of that, but at the same time, we try to be more thoughtful with what we do, which is the whole mantra of this show. And that's where you have to watch the game. You got to watch the tape and understand exactly what's happening. Jimmy G tried to give the Rams this game. He threw the ball damn near to Jalen Ramsey like 2 times. Like I'm still baffled. The second time where it looked like Ramsey had a pick 6 and he, dropped it because he jumped the route. Jimmy G basically scrambles right, taps the ball, looks at the receiver. I can't remember if it was Deebo Samuel or Ayuk. It was one of the two, but he eyeballs him.
It was Ayuk.
And so Ramsey stops. Who was it?
Ayuk.
It was Ayuk. Mm-hmm. So Ramsey stops his defense of Juwan Jennings and runs right at Ayuk. If Jimmy G would have been thinking, Juwan Jennings was wide open deep. He was wide open because Ramsey jumped the route. And this was before he threw it. Ramsey basically stopped and did this. He knows where it's going. So if he could have tapped it and went, that would have been a touchdown. We didn't get that from Jimmy Garoppolo. We got him flicking the ball behind him. Mina Kimes was right. I'm sorry. You can crucify me all you want to say what you want to. Jeff Garcia, which is even funnier that Jeff Garcia turned his Instagram account private right after that game because everybody basically looked at him and said, please, sir, explain to us where Jimmy Garoppolo was good because nothing about that game was good. Those 2 touchdowns he threw weren't on him. No. It was the runners. Catch and run.
So the name of the show is Unfair, and I think you're being very unfair to Jimmy Garoppolo right now.
Oh, I am?
Yeah, you are. You're being very unfair to him. Yep. And
okay.
I've seen this I've listened to a few shows today. I rarely do that on a day we record because I like to keep my mind clear. But I wanted to hear a few things about what other people were saying about that particular game and the other game that we'll get into later. But when it comes down to, obviously Mina Kimes and Jeff Garcia represent 2 classes of individual when it comes to the polarizing perspectives that Jimmy G creates in others. Jeff Garcia is a bit extreme, but I think Mina Kimes, well, for one, Jeff Garcia was wrong with the personal attacks that he levied against Mina Kimes. That was totally unfair. A lot of people don't like that, and they're absolutely correct. He was wrong for that. But extreme in the sense of making apologies and making excuses for Jimmy G, not seeing reality. And Mina Kimes, in a way, a lot of her analysis of Jimmy G is on point, but I think she's going a bit too extreme as well, because part of what one can do with her analysis is walk away from that if you don't know Jimmy G very well, thinking that he's a terrible quarterback, and he's not. I mean, his record shows that, yes, he is a winning quarterback. There are a lot of reasons on this San Francisco team why he wins games, but both sides are too extreme. This game is a perfect example of that. The first 3 quarters, Jimmy G was playing a really good game. He had no interceptions at that point, had his 2 touchdown passes, and I think was already over 230 yards. That's more what Jeff Garcia was talking about. But in that fourth quarter, that's more what Mina Kimes was talking about, in the sense of when you can't run the ball, when they know you have to pass, and it is completely on you to lead this team, you cannot do it. You cannot rise above a first 3 quarters game manager, leading to that pick, which was the sort of the perfect cherry on top of, in a sense, what we know Jimmy G to do. G stands for giving you a chance because he always does. And he did it in that instance in a most horrible, panicked fashion. That's more what Mina Kimes was talking about. So it's like they're both right. Combined, that is what Jimmy G is. It's just they fall into two extremes and they keep going, and then other people follow them down those paths.
So when he tried to hand the Cowboys that game, we basically said, luckily, they're the Cowboys. They're not going to take it. They're going to run a draw with 13 seconds left in the game and not be able to actually call timeout.
Cowboys going to count.
When he tried to give the game to the Packers, they weren't going to take it because Aaron Rodgers sucks at home in the playoffs. He has proven he's not good in the playoffs at home. The Rams decided that they were going to take it.
Yes.
Because they gave it to him. So this was, to me, I'm sorry. There's a reason why the 49ers drafted a quarterback that's a project with a number 3 pick and used all those picks to get him. It's because Jimmy G is not a good quarterback. Yes, his record shows that he is good. He also was quarterbacking for the Patriots when Tom Brady was out. And then when Kyle Shanahan got him, he used a power run offense that led them to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
We've seen where a coach can carry a quarterback to a Super Bowl. The Rams did it with Jared Goff. And we said this before the season started, when the trade was made, when the details came out, that if the Rams don't make it back to the Super Bowl, it's only one reason: Matthew Stafford. And this leads me into talking about him. Did you see that Matt Stafford tried to give that game right back to you guys? He tried to hand it right back. And it's funny because a couple plays later, they ran a screenplay, and you saw McVay look at him and say, "My bad."
Yeah.
You know why he said it, "My bad," right?
Well, for one, it was on third down. That's not the right play to run third down. Yeah.
But you know why he said, "My bad," right? Let me tell y'all why he said, "My bad." He doesn't trust Matt Stafford either. And so he decided to run a screen pass with a quarterback with a rocket arm on third down. About 4 plays, roughly 4 plays after Stafford threw it down the middle and came up short by like 5 yards. And the safety for the 49ers, who could have just won that game, I can't think of his name off the top of my head,
Jaquiski Tartt,
dropped it. There you go. He had it right here, just right there in them hands. And he dropped it. And I know he cried post-game. I know he cried in his locker. I know he cried when he got home because that play ends the game. Because after that, that's when the drive happened and Cooper Kupp started to do what Cooper Kupp does and scores a touchdown. But if he would have done that, that was game. Game, set, match.
I don't agree.
Booyah.
I don't agree because at that point in the game, it was 17-14. With the way that both sides have been playing, I still think the Rams would have won that game. They might have had to take it into overtime because essentially that pick would have stopped the drive that netted them 3 points. So let's say you take those 3 points off, 17-17 going into overtime. So I can't say that Tartt lost the game. You know, I was on Twitter. I was looking at a few things. The comments from 49ers fans were, most of them, as you would think that they are. I mean, the sky's falling and just cursing everybody out. It was bad. But they did not necessarily lose that game because of him. That would have helped increase their odds of winning. But I don't think they lost the game because of him. Now, you're still being unfair, Jay.
Not saying they lost the game because of him, but that would have sealed it. I think that would have called because everybody that believes in momentum would have said that the momentum has shifted, and now there
was too much time left. There was too much time left. I don't think in that fourth quarter there was going to be anything the 49ers were going to do to beat that Rams team. The Rams were finally where they needed to be, and I don't think that the 49ers were ever going to be able to overcome that, primarily because they haven't been able to run the ball the entire game. But you're still being unfair to Jimmy G and Matthew Stafford. You're saying that Jimmy G is not a good quarterback. He is. That's essentially all he is. And you're saying that Sean McVay didn't trust Matthew Stafford when he let him throw the ball 46 times. And Matthew Stafford's arm is a big part of the reason why they were able to overcome the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who probably should have won that game. Yes, the 4 fumbles almost gave the game back to the Buccaneers. But I don't see that. I don't see Jimmy G, because if you're saying he's not a good quarterback, you may as well say he's a bad quarterback. I don't see that in a quarterback whose team will run through a wall for him and has gotten to 2 NFC championships. I don't see that. And I don't see this in Matthew Stafford that he doesn't trust. McVay trusts that Matthew Stafford is going to Stafford and that he's going to let him be Matthew, but that he's going to give the other team 1 to 2 opportunities a game to take the ball from them. But he's willing to live with that. So I'm not seeing fairness in what you're saying.
It's okay. I mean, you don't have to, but I'll put it like this. If they don't win the Super Bowl, it's because of Matt Stafford. It's not because of anybody else. Cincinnati's defense, and we're going to talk about them in a minute. Mm-hmm. But my entire point behind both of those two is that I'm glad Stafford finally got there. I guess I can give him his kudos on that. But he did ride it on the coattail of McVay because he's been there before with Jared Goff. If they do not win it, it will be because of him, not because of anybody else. Mm-hmm. And on the Jimmy G thing, when he's gone from San Francisco, I hope good luck to him trying to find a job as a starter anywhere because he will not start in this league again.
But and what's funny about that is now that I do somewhat agree with because I thought in that fourth quarter, every other team is watching this game. In that fourth quarter, that the way he performed is going to scare quite a few people away from bringing him in. Now, there are certain franchises, like for instance, if he had dreams of being a Steeler or a Bronco after this game, he can get rid of those feelings because they're not going to put their hopes and dreams on him when they have much of what they need in order to at least get to the playoffs. So if they are able to trade Jimmy G or if they choose to, it's going to have to be to maybe one of the bottom tier teams. Maybe they use him as sort of a bridge until they can get a young quarterback that they really want. That's essentially what I think he played himself into. I don't know how you feel about, you don't think he's a good quarterback, so you probably already thought that he wasn't going to get with a really good franchise who's a quarterback away, right?
No, not at all. That's the thing about it is the 49ers are a quarterback away.
Yeah.
So who else is going to be able to use him if they're a quarterback away from going to the – they're literally a quarterback away from going to the Super Bowl, Jimmy. Mm. If they had an actual pass offense that was a threat, the run game would have stayed effective. But Kyle Shanahan knows he cannot trust his quarterback. Mm-hmm. And y'all can defend him all y'all want to. I ain't.
Now that I can defend. When you say that he doesn't trust him, I can defend that because Jimmy Garoppolo.
That means he's not a good quarterback.
Throughout the season, rarely threw a pass over 15 yards. In Trey Lance's start against Houston, he threw a 45-yard bomb to Deebo Samuel for a touchdown. So that is fair. I can agree that he does not trust him to push the ball down the field.
And typically you don't trust quarterbacks that aren't good. So in other words, Kyle Shanahan sees this quarterback and says, I need you to do one thing. Don't turn the ball over. And instead of doing that, he tried to give the ball to the Rams on numerous occasions with bad passes that he got lucky, didn't get picked off until he did the flicker. Mm-hmm. And basically sealed the deal for the Rams Super Bowl.
Well, Jay, isn't trust situational with coaches in the sense of I can trust this, but it doesn't have to be a quarterback. I can trust this particular player in these situations to do these things, and then in other situations, I cannot trust him to do that. So it's more of a compartmentalized trust, right?
I mean, yeah, I can see that. But at the same time, if you just ain't good,
he's good at certain things. I mean, and they're like the great quarterbacks when it comes to trust.
Is he though?
Ones that you can trust. Yes, he
is. He though?
Quarterback. Yes.
Is he though?
He's okay. 32 starting quarterbacks in the league. All right, what's the cutoff as far as 32 starting quarterbacks in the league? What number would you say is the cutoff between good and not good to bad after that? Is it quarterback 16 and down, quarterback 18 and down? What is it for you?
Jimmy Garoppolo and down. I'm being unrealistic here. I am being unfair on that. But no,
there are a lot of people who agree with you, Jay. I
know. He shows us he always gives this to us. Like, and we'll talk about them in the next game. Yeah. But this is just, it's poetic justice, man. It just happens every single time. Like, I'm waiting for Matt Stafford to ruin this for the Rams. I'm just waiting for it. And I really hope he doesn't do this to Aaron Donald and them here in the Super Bowl. But I'm just waiting for Matt Stafford to lose the game for them. Like I told you, Boise Z hit me up and was like, hey, man, because for the last 13 years, everybody's trying to tell us that Matt Stafford is just, he's so close. He could do it. He could do it. He could do it. Mm-hmm. And then when he had that streak this season where he kept throwing pick sixes, he was like, hey, man, this dude's questionable. He's good. but he ain't enough. He might not be enough because he keeps doing stuff.